What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and with the FPI coming out yesterday, we're going to give you the top 10 teams in terms of most wins from those FPI rankings. I'll also give you my top 10 in terms of which teams will win the most games based off of those projections that we've done, and we'll get to those in just a second. But let's just jump right in here, and we'll start with number 10. That is Penn State. Their FPI ranking is actually number 10. They are projected to win 9.3 games. They have a 99.9% chance of winning at least 6 games, getting to a bowl game. 9.3 is the projection here. I think that's actually pretty fair. I think the odds would tell you, if all the favorites win, I think Penn State's probably looking at 10-2, just like last year, losses to Michigan, Ohio State. But when you look at all their schedule, all their games, you could easily see them possibly losing a third game. Now, you could also argue, hey, they could split with Ohio State and Michigan, and they could get to 11-1, and maybe 10-2 would be that more fair projection. But 9.3 over 9 wins for Penn State, I think that's pretty fair. If I was Vegas, I'd probably put their over-under at 9.5, so FPI would be just under that. All right, number 9 is LSU. LSU number 4 in the FPI, but number 9 in terms of projected wins. That means that their schedule is pretty tough. They are projected to win 9.6 games, a 99.9% chance that they also would get to a bowl game, and all these teams are basically at that number. So 9.6 wins, that would include potentially the SEC championship, so they're probably putting them more at 9-3, maybe 10-2, or maybe 10-3. Maybe they go 9-3, somehow get to the SEC championship, win it, get to, there are different ways you could get there. But 9.6, that's the projected win total for LSU. I think that's very fair. I would probably put their over-under at 9.5 as well. Just when you got Florida State, Alabama on the schedule, you look at the rest of the schedule, Texas A&M, who beat them last year, I'd probably put it at 9.5 or 10. So 9.6 seems to be about right. Oklahoma, so they're number 8 in terms of projected wins, but the FPI ranking for them is at number 11. They're just outside the top 10. 9.7 projected wins, 99.7% chance that they will get to a bowl game. So not quite as high as some of these other teams, but Oklahoma is a team. You look at everything they have coming back. You look at the additions in the transfer portal. I would probably put their over-under at 9 or 9.5. They also have a really easy schedule, so that helps as well. So I think that's a little bit of a high number at 9.7, but it's pretty close to where I would put it for the Sooners. Michigan at number 7. Their FPI ranking is a number 6. Projected wins 10. Now they are only projected to go 10-2 or potentially 10-3 if they go to the Big Ten championship game. That's a really low number. I mean, the over-under for Michigan should be at 11. I feel confident that that's where it's going to be, and I guess they've already come out with over-unders. I haven't even looked at them yet, but their number should be at 11. You look at the schedule, it's Penn State, it's Ohio State. Who else is going to beat them? I just don't see anyone else on that schedule. Maybe there's an upset somewhere, but a 10-win season for them would be a disappointment, and I think that the FBI definitely underrating Michigan. They had them around this number last year. I think they were 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range. So it's basically the same thing that we got last year with this Michigan team. All right, number 6 is Texas. FBI has them at number 5, projected to win 10.1 games, despite the fact that they have Alabama in the non-conference. 99.9% chance that they get to a bowl game. The FBI loves Texas. They liked them last year as well. They were 5th or 6th in the FBI last year in the preseason. I can't remember now. But they were up there in the top 10. And again, I don't understand this. If the FBI is looking at the last 3 years, Texas hasn't really been great the last 3 years. I realize that their recruiting is much higher than most of the teams in the Big 12. They've got the talent, but they have really underperformed. And again, that's another big takeaway here is how much Texas has underperformed, because based off of their talent and everything, they should be a top 10 team, just like they should have been a top 10 team last year, and it just has not come together for them. Is this the year? Is Texas back? Well, the FBI right there where they always are with Texas, and they've got them winning 10.1 games ahead of Oklahoma in the Big 12. Number 5 is Clemson. FBI has them at number 8. But number 5 here in total wins means their schedule's not too tough according to the FPI. Projected wins 10.3, a 99.9% chance that they get to a bowl game. I think 10.3 is pretty fair. You look at the schedule, though, I think there are some tricky games on there. I would probably not put them at 10.5. I'd probably put them at 10 because I think there's a pretty good chance they go 10-2. And I would even say maybe there's just as good of a chance that they go 9-3 as 11-1. Maybe a little bit better chance they go 11-1, especially because they get Florida State at home. But, 10.5, somewhere in there, that's probably where their over-under is going to be. So the FPI pretty much in line with that. USC at number 7 in the FPI rankings, but number 4 in terms of projected wins. 10.3 projected wins. That means they think their schedule will be pretty easy. A 99.9% chance also for them to get to a bowl game. And this one, it was a head scratcher at first for me because if you go back to the last 3 years, you go to 2021, that was a really bad year for them. But you got to remember in 2020, they were 4-1 in a shortened season, so they had a good year that year. And so only one of their last 3 years have been bad. And you look at the talent they have on the roster, it all starts to make sense why the FPI likes this team a lot more than Oregon, a lot more than Washington, although I think those teams along with Utah are really pretty even. FBI looking at that talent for USC, looking at what they did last year, and they're putting them at 10.3. I think that's high. I think with the schedule, their over-under should be 9.5, maybe 10. Of the FBI really high on the Trojans. Alabama number 3. They're number 2 in the FBI rankings, but they're at 11.1 projected wins. 100% chance that they get to a bowl game. They were actually number 1 in the preseason rankings last year. Of course, they lost a couple of games, did not get to the college football playoff. So FBI really high once again on Alabama. 11.1 is their projected win total. I would probably put their over-under at 10.5. I think there's a really good chance they go 11-1, but you do have some tough games on that schedule. Texas A&M on the road. You got LSU, Texas, Tennessee. So because of that schedule, I think their over-under probably should be about 10.5. And so the FBI may be overrating Alabama just a little bit. Georgia's projected wins 11.7, pretty much putting them at 12-0, or I guess 12-1 if you're counting the SEC championship. 100% chance they get to a bowl game. I have no problem with that. I think that win total is pretty accurate. The over-under for Georgia should probably be like 11.5. It's just as likely that they go 12-0, or maybe more likely that they go 12-0 than it is they go 11-1, just because of their schedule. Again, I don't understand why they're behind, why they're not number 1 in the FPI rankings, but they are number 3. The number 1 team is Ohio State, projected to go 11.8 wins. And I just do not understand this. This one is definitely a head scratcher. When you've got Penn State, you've got Michigan, you've got Notre Dame. I think all 3 of those are top 10 teams in the FPI. Wisconsin, I think, is a top 20 team in the FPI. They go on the road for that game. So I just don't understand why their projected win total is so high. Even if they do think they're the best team, I don't understand that number being at 11.8. Pretty much saying that Ohio State's going to lose 1 game, including the Big Ten Championship, saying that there's a really good chance that they go 12-0. So that one I don't quite understand. Again, Alabama was number 1 last year, and we saw what happened with them. Is the same thing going to happen to Ohio State with a tough schedule? Well, we'll see. So that's what the FBI says in terms of total wins. Based off the projections that we did, and I went through every Power 5 team. You can go back and watch them. I completely forgot to do the full rankings. We went through and showed you every conference. But last year I showed all the 65 Power 5 teams. I guess it's not 65 now because you've got new teams in the Big 12. But anyways, showed all the Power 5 teams, and I showed what the rankings would look like based off of records, projected records. And maybe I'll go back and do that since I forgot. But based off of those numbers, the top 10 would look like this. Georgia at 12-0, Michigan at 11-1, and then you've got several teams tied at 10-3, at 10-2, I should say. And I forgot to put the 10-2 number there. But these are all teams that are projected to go 10-2 based off of our formula: Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, USC, and Washington. And so this is actually a top 9. These are the top 9 teams I'll just kind of look through my list here and tell you the teams that are projected to go 9-3. There are several of those. In the SEC, you have Tennessee. They're projected to go 9-3. In the ACC, you've got Clemson at 9-3 and Florida State at 9-3. In the Big 12, we've got TCU. That's the only team projected to go 9-3. And remember, when I did my projections, it was based a lot off of how the teams were last season. I think if I had to redo them with the new information, all the offseason research that I've done so far, I don't think TCU's number would be at 9-3 anymore. But you go through the Pac-12, Utah's at 9-3, and they were in the same tier as Oregon, Washington, and USC, just a tougher schedule. But yeah, we had Utah there at 9-3, and I don't think we had any Big Ten teams at 9-3, so we just had those top 3 teams at 11-1 and 10-2. Wisconsin, I'm looking through my list here. Wisconsin was projected to go 8-4, so they were not at 9-3. And so just a few teams there at 9-3, and those would be your top teams and the teams that I think really are the top contenders for the playoff and the New Year's Six. So those are the numbers. Again, our projections have Georgia and Alabama at the top. FPI has Georgia and Michigan at the top. FPI has Ohio State and Georgia at the top in terms of total wins, but Alabama was actually ahead of Georgia in the FPI rankings. Your reaction, your takeaways from this, let me know down in the comments below.